Martina's journey from an abandoned orphanage to a successful career in design is a testament to perseverance and hope. After being left behind by her mother, Martina resolved to build a life that would make her proud and perhaps even make her mother regret her abandonment. Her path was marked by academic achievements, a fulfilling job, and the unwavering support of her childhood friend, Florencio. Their bond, forged in the loneliness of the orphanage, blossomed into a deep, loving relationship. On her 25th birthday, a day filled with surprises and heartfelt gestures, Florencio's grand romantic gesture culminated in a proposal, turning Martina's once painful memories into a celebration of new beginnings. Their journey from friends to partners was a journey of mutual support and unspoken love, ultimately leading to a beautiful, fulfilling marriage and a shared dream of designing their future together. Yet, behind this tale of joy and success lies a poignant reminder of past pain and longing. As Martina and Florencio look forward to their future, their story is a powerful reflection of the strength found in overcoming abandonment and betrayal and the profound connection that can heal past wounds. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell to avoid missing any videos. Before we dive into this story, please let me know where you're watching from in the comments. The thought that the person who should have been her greatest ally could be a traitor was almost too devastating for Martina to bear. The very idea was inconceivable, heart-wrenching, and beyond her wildest fears. Simply couldn't be true, shouldn't be. Yet the harsh reality was unmistakably clear. Martina gazed out the window, her face streaked with the silent tears that had become her constant companions. It had been a grueling 6 months since her mother had brought her to the institution, promising her that she would return in just a few days. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months, and her mother never appeared. Martina, in her innocent desperation, clung to the hope that something terrible must have happened to her mother. That's why she didn't come for her. She grasped at every possible excuse, hoping against hope. The other girls in the orphanage, those who shared her room, had been quick to dismiss her hopes. They told her plainly that her mother wouldn't be coming back, for this was an orphanage, and no one ever returned for the children after just a few days. Despite their cold assertions, Martina chose to believe, to cling to the sliver of hope that her mother would come back for her. She waited, enduring the passing of a year, then 3, until the very last day she was confined to that place. Martina's heart ached with the longing that her mother would return, but it wasn't until she finally left the orphanage that the full, crushing truth dawned on her. She had been placed in a city 150 kilometers away from her home, and her mother had no intention of ever coming back for her. The realization was a searing, painful blow, one that left her grappling with a simple, yet agonizing question. Why had she been so quiet, so compliant, and so obedient while her mother had left her in an unfamiliar and unwelcoming place? Why had she remained so hopeful in the face of such abandonment? Her mother had been gainfully employed, and they had always lived comfortably, so why had this happened to her? The burning desire to confront her mother and demand answers consumed Martina. She resolved to approach the situation with a new determination. She planned to educate herself thoroughly, secure a prestigious job, and return to her mother not as a child lost and abandoned, but as a successful, accomplished professional. She wanted her mother to feel the weight of guilt and regret, the same pain she had inflicted on Martina. Martina was a remarkably intelligent young woman. Her academic performance was exceptional, and her teachers had high expectations for her future. She excelled in her studies, prepared meticulously for entrance exams, and secured a place in one of the city's most esteemed universities. Her dream was to become a designer, and she worked tirelessly to achieve that goal. Upon graduating, Martina was offered an opportunity at a prestigious design firm, where she completed her internship and began a new chapter in her life, one that took her far from her past. She embarked on challenging and rewarding projects, marking her professional journey with notable success. Though her social circle was limited, she found a friend in Purita, a colleague from work, though their bond remained more professional than personal. However, there was another person who held a special place in Martina's heart, Florencio. Their connection had started when they were both in the orphanage. Martina was just 11, and Florencio was 13, an age where adapting to a new environment became increasingly difficult. One day, when older boys surrounded Florencio, who was trying to keep to himself and avoid interaction, Martina witnessed the scene. With a heart full of courage and defiance, she intervened. "Why are you ganging up on him?" she demanded fiercely. "What has this boy ever done to you?" The older boys sneered and tried to dismiss her, but Martina's resolve remained unshaken. Calmly, she warned them, "If you don't leave him alone, I'll call Carlos Rios." The mention of Carlos Rios, the strict yet fair gym teacher known for his unwavering protection of the younger children, was enough to make the bullies flee. They knew well that Carlos Rios would never tolerate such behavior, and the fear of facing him made them retreat. For Martina, this act of bravery was not just about standing up for someone. It was a testament to her strength and her unyielding spirit in the face of adversity. Martina approached Florencio with genuine concern, her voice laced with warmth. "Hey, are you all right? Did they hurt you?" she asked tenderly, extending a hand of friendship. Florencio, with a hint of gratitude in his eyes, accepted her gesture. "No, I'm fine, thanks. I'm Florencio, and you must be Martina. You're new here, aren't you?" "Yes," Martina nodded, her face reflecting the weariness of her recent arrival. "I've been here for a week now. I don't want to stay. My grandmother is supposed to pick me up soon." Martina's skepticism was evident as she questioned, "Are you sure about that? Adults' promises don't always hold up." Florencio's voice carried a somber tone as he explained, "I live with my grandmother, but she's in the hospital. They placed me here while she was recovering. As soon as she's better, she'll come for me." Martina's face showed a flicker of envy. "My mother promised to come for me too, but it's been 4 long years and she's never shown up." Florencio offered a mature perspective. "Maybe something has happened to her that's kept her from coming." Martina sighed deeply, her voice tinged with resignation. "I don't know. It's just that being left behind hurts so much. When I'm older, I'll find her and demand answers." Florencio shared his painful past. "I don't even remember my mother. She and my father died in a car accident when I was just 2. My grandmother took me in, and we're all alone." Martina's eyes welled up with tears as she reflected, "It's a shame. I never had a father. It was just me and my mother until Gustavo came along. After that, my mother spent all her time with him. It didn't matter how much he ignored me. I just wanted to be in my own home." Overwhelmed by her emotions, Martina confessed, "I can't stay here any longer. It makes me sick. I refuse to stay in this place." Florencio, sensing her distress, suggested, "It would be better if we faced this together." Martina's face brightened with a glimmer of hope. "Let's do that," she agreed with a renewed sense of purpose. From that day on, they became inseparable, spending every moment together except during classes and bedtime. Their bond was tested by jealousy and opposition from others. Many envied their close friendship and tried to create friction between them. Florencio learned to stand his ground, defending both himself and Martina from the hostility of others. Despite the challenges, they managed to protect their friendship, though it often involved confrontations, Florencio against the boys and Martina against the girls. Their resilience was further bolstered by the intervention of Carlos Rios, who helped them navigate through their struggles. The real test came when Florencio transitioned from the orphanage to university. His grandmother, who had been his only family, passed away in the hospital, leaving him without the one person he had relied on. The loss was devastating for Florencio, and without Martina's support, it's hard to say how he would have coped with such a profound tragedy. During the 2 years that Florencio was away at university, Martina faced the most challenging period of her life. The absence of her dear friend left her feeling isolated. She withdrew into herself, eagerly awaiting his weekend visits. Each Saturday became a beacon of hope, marking the end of another week of solitude. When Martina finally aged out of the orphanage and began a new chapter in her life, she was fortunate to find an apartment right next to Florencio's. Their proximity allowed them to continue their close friendship, seeing each other nearly every day. The initial period of living independently was fraught with difficulties for Martina. However, Florencio was a steadfast source of support, helping her adjust to her new life. As Martina embarked on her college journey and a new job, she managed to balance her busy schedule with maintaining their friendship. She even took on the responsibility of cooking for him, further cementing their bond. Florencio, now working as an architect in a construction company, found it astonishing how their professional paths seemed to align, reflecting the deep connection they shared. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 1 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Today, as Martina celebrates her 25th birthday, she wakes with a sense of anticipation and joy. The thought of spending the evening with Florencio at their favorite restaurant fills her with delight. Since it's a day off, she luxuriates in the freedom to sleep in and leisurely prepare for the evening's festivities. Despite her general indifference towards birthdays, today feels different. There's a special kind of happiness in the air. Just as she starts to drift back into sleep, her phone rings. The voice on the other end is unfamiliar but friendly. "Hello, is this Martina Castro?" asks a cheerful woman. "Yes, this is she," Martina replies with a calm demeanor. She isn't fazed by calls from unknown numbers, assuming it might be a potential client. The woman continues, "On behalf of the Aphrodite Beauty Salon, we want to wish you a very happy birthday. To celebrate, we're offering you a complimentary 1-month subscription to our services. You can enjoy any treatment we offer during this time, completely free of charge." Martina's eyes widen in surprise and delight. "Wow, thank you so much. I've been a regular client for 2 years, but I've never heard of this before. This exclusive offer is reserved for our VIP clients, like yourself," the woman explains warmly. "We look forward to pampering you whenever it suits you." "That sounds amazing," Martina exclaims. "Can I come in today? I'd love to get a manicure, a haircut, and some makeup for this evening." "Certainly. What time would work for you?" 3 o'clock would be perfect." "Great, we'll see you then. Have a wonderful day." As she hangs up, Martina can't help but feel thrilled by the unexpected gift. She heads to the bathroom to freshen up, but her phone immediately starts buzzing with birthday wishes. Her colleagues are calling to celebrate her special day, and among them is Purita, who surprises Martina with her thoughtful call. Just when she thinks the surprises have ended, the phone rings once more. It's the general manager of her company, and the conversation leaves her speechless. "Martina, heartfelt congratulations on your birthday. I wish you good health, boundless energy, creative success, and immense happiness. As one of our top employees, the management has decided to reward you with a special gift. A week-long sea trip for 2. It's a chance for you to escape and enjoy some well-deserved relaxation. You can bring someone special with you." Stunned by the generous offer, Martina replies, "Thank you so much. I'm genuinely touched, but I'm scheduled for vacation in 3 months." "No worries at all," the general manager insists. "Consider it your early birthday present. I'm granting you immediate leave for the trip. Your flight is scheduled for 3 days. You deserve this." Martina expresses her gratitude and disconnects, her heart brimming with joy. What an extraordinary birthday. I've never experienced anything like this. Just as she steps into the bathroom, the doorbell rings, causing her to smile in anticipation. If there are any more surprises today, I might faint from happiness, she thinks, slipping into her robe and heading to the door. There, standing with a broad smile, is the delivery man holding a magnificent bouquet of roses. "Are you Martina Castro?" he asks kindly. "Yes, that's me," she replies, her heart fluttering with excitement. "Here are your flowers. Please sign here." Martina takes the bouquet, marveling at the beautiful arrangement, and signs for it with a heart full of gratitude. The day's celebrations have exceeded her wildest dreams, leaving her feeling profoundly cherished and loved. Martina carefully signed for the bouquet, feeling the soft rustle of the tissue paper as she took it from the delivery man. The bouquet was a stunning arrangement of 25 roses, each one exuding a delicate, creamy fragrance that filled the air with a subtle, enchanting scent. Nestled within the blooms was a small, elegantly designed card. Martina unfolded it with trembling fingers and read the heartfelt note. "Martina, from your dear little man. Happy holidays to you. See you tonight." A wave of warmth washed over her. "Of course," she mused with a smile. "Who else could have sent me these flowers but Florencio?" As she placed the roses in a vase, their sweet perfume mingling with the fresh scent of her home, Martina felt a deep sense of affection and gratitude. With the bouquet safely in place, she headed to the bathroom to prepare for her special evening. After a refreshing shower and a cup of strong coffee to invigorate her, Martina faced the task of choosing the perfect outfit for the night. She rifled through her wardrobe, pulling out one coat and dress after another, but nothing seemed quite right. In contrast to her days at the orphanage, when she had only a handful of outfits to choose from, now, with this extraordinary celebration on the horizon, she felt the weight of her choices more keenly. "I need something truly special for this exceptional birthday," she thought to herself. Determined to find the perfect ensemble, Martina ventured out to do some last-minute shopping. The city streets were alive with the hustle and bustle of shoppers, and she quickly found a chic dress that felt just right. Afterward, she made her way to the beauty salon. There, she indulged in a meticulous manicure, a stylish new haircut, and a flawless makeup application. As she looked at her reflection, she felt a surge of excitement. Only a few finishing touches remained before she was ready to celebrate. With everything in place, she hopped into a taxi, her anticipation building with every passing moment. Upon arriving at the restaurant, she was greeted by the sight of a sleek black limousine parked outside. "Ah, someone else must be celebrating tonight," she thought wistfully as she paid the taxi fare and stepped into the restaurant with an air of quiet confidence. The interior of the restaurant took her breath away. Every table was adorned with vibrant flowers, and colorful balloons hung from the ceiling, each one emblazoned with cheerful, happy birthday messages. Martina's heart skipped a beat as she admired the decorations, a pang of envy touching her. As a child, she had often dreamed of such a magical party. "How fortunate someone must be today," she mused, momentarily wondering if she had inadvertently crashed another celebration. Just as she was about to dwell on this thought, Florencio appeared before her, his presence commanding and his dark blue suit impeccably tailored. He was holding a magnificent bouquet, his face lit up with a beaming smile. "My dear Marty," he announced with a joyous, almost theatrical flair. Martina's heart swelled with emotion, though she tried to hush him gently. "Happy birthday," Florencio continued, his voice resonant with sincerity. "I wish you boundless happiness, endless love, prosperity, and the fulfillment of all your dreams. And one of those dreams, I've already made come true. This entire place is for you." With a grand sweep of his arm, he gestured to the beautifully decorated restaurant, transforming it into a personal birthday haven. Martina's eyes filled with tears as she took in the full extent of the surprise. "I remember you telling me about your childhood wish for a party like this, and I'm so sorry I couldn't grant it sooner. But now I want to do something truly special for you. You mean the world to me," Florencio said, his voice filled with deep affection. "Florencio, you did all this for me?" Martina's voice trembled with emotion, her heart overwhelmed by the depth of his love and thoughtfulness. "Of course," he replied tenderly, his eyes reflecting the same love and devotion. "You are the closest person to me, and I wanted to make sure you had the birthday you've always dreamed of." As they embraced, the warmth of the evening and the profound care behind the celebration left Martina feeling utterly cherished and profoundly grateful. "Thank you, dear. This is the best gift of all," Martina said, her voice choked with emotion as she hugged Florencio tightly and kissed him gently on the cheek. Florencio chuckled, his eyes twinkling with mischief. No, that's not the gift. This is just the decoration for the room. The real gift will come a little later," he teased. Martina's eyes widened in surprise. "How could there be more? I'm already overwhelmed with happiness," she said, feeling a mixture of excitement and disbelief. Just then, a waiter approached with a bottle of champagne, filling their glasses with a crisp, golden liquid. To you, dear birthday girl, and to you, my Florencio, a true friend, he toasted. After they clinked glasses and enjoyed their champagne, Florencio made a subtle gesture to the waiter, who soon returned with a medium-sized box wrapped in festive paper and adorned with a bow. With a smile, Florencio took the box and handed it to Martina. Here's your gift. Open it now. Martina's heart raced as she carefully unwrapped the box, peeling away layers of paper with the eagerness of a child. When she finally revealed the oblong box typically used for jewelry, she looked at Florencio with a curious smile. Inside, she discovered a stunning gold bracelet and a ring. Her eyes widened in astonishment. This wasn't just any jewelry. Before she could voice her thoughts, Florencio took a deep breath and spoke with heartfelt sincerity. Marty, there is no one closer or dearer to me than you. You are the best person in the world. Will you marry me? Martina was so stunned she almost fell from her chair. Florencio, do you mean this? She asked, her voice trembling with disbelief. Absolutely, he replied, his gaze steady and earnest. And you? Yes, I do. That's a definite yes, she said, barely containing her elation. Florencio's face broke into a joyous grin. Yes, hooray! She said yes, he exclaimed, his voice ringing out across the room. The entire restaurant erupted in applause, and Florencio swept Martina into his arms, spinning her around as the music played and children danced in celebration. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 2 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Martina's heart swelled with happiness. She had always loved Florencio but had convinced herself it was merely sisterly affection. The truth was now undeniable. Her feelings were so much deeper. She had spent years misinterpreting her own emotions out of fear of damaging their precious friendship. Unbeknownst to her, Florencio had harbored the same feelings, believing she saw him only as a friend and fearing the loss of their bond if he revealed his true emotions. As they sat together at the table, laughter bubbled up between them, a joyful release of their mutual indecision and past fears. How much time have we wasted? Florencio mused sadly. Yes, Martina agreed, her eyes sparkling with happiness. All because we didn't talk. Let's promise never to hide anything from each other again. Okay? After dinner, as they prepared to leave the restaurant, a sleek black limousine pulled up outside. Martina's eyes widened in surprise. Is this what we're driving in? Did you order this? She asked, her voice filled with amazement. Of course, Florencio replied with a warm smile, wrapping his arm around her waist and guiding her toward the car. I wanted this day to be as special as possible for you. As they settled into the luxurious interior of the limousine, Martina nestled against Florencio, her heart overflowing with joy. The evening had surpassed all her expectations, and she felt a profound sense of contentment knowing they were embarking on this new chapter of their lives together. They drove through the city for about 2 hours, savoring the sights and enjoying each other's company, before heading to Martina's house. What awaited them was their first and truest night of love, something they had both secretly dreamed of for a long time. The passion and intimacy they shared were more than they had ever imagined, making it a night they would always cherish. 3 days later, they set off for the sea, spending an entire week walking along the shore, basking in each other's presence. The days were filled with joy and discovery, and it felt as if they had just met. Each moment was fresh and exhilarating. The week flew by in a blur of romance and relaxation. Upon returning home, the following day they registered their marriage. Their wedding day, September 9th, held special significance as it was the same day they had first met at the orphanage. For the first time in her life, and as a woman, Martina felt genuinely happy as she prepared for this meaningful event. The wedding was a small, intimate affair attended by a few close friends and family, some colleagues from work, her neighbor and her husband, and Carlos Rios, the only person from the orphanage with whom they had stayed in touch. The ceremony took place at their favorite restaurant. Despite its modest size, the wedding was filled with joy and a sense of abundance. After the ceremony, Martina moved in with Florencio, The couple decided to postpone their honeymoon until the following year, opting instead to settle into their new life together. Their married life was marked by peace and mutual understanding, with no major conflicts or scandals. Martina occasionally wondered if their relationship was too perfect, as they never seemed to argue and always seemed to know each other so well. A year passed, and they decided to rent out Martina's flat, using the extra income to save money from their salaries. They had a dream of opening their own design office, where they could develop projects from the ground up. Taking a leap of faith, they embarked on this new venture. Florencio managed the calculations and designed the structures, while Martina focused on the interior design. The initial stages were challenging, with a lack of clients creating anxiety, but their patience eventually bore fruit. An important client commissioned them to renovate his parents' country house. The couple threw themselves into the project, and within a week, it was unexpectedly approved. Florencio had an epiphany. "Look, Marti, we can create our projects. We need to find a construction company to collaborate with us and move forward. What do you think?" "I think it's a fantastic idea. Let's give it a try," Martina replied, her excitement mirroring his own. As they searched for reliable builders, word of their talents spread throughout the city. Florencio succeeded in finding 2 teams of versatile builders willing to work with them permanently. With this newfound partnership, their business began to flourish. They designed and built their projects, and within 6 years, their small office had grown into a successful construction company with its architectural department. The couple thrived professionally, their bond growing stronger as they worked together. However, Martina had recently been troubled by the inability to get pregnant. Florencio reassured her, reminding her that they still had time and that they could focus on developing their business before starting a family. Martina agreed but yearned for a baby sooner rather than later. They even had a thorough medical checkup to rule out any issues. The doctor reassured them that Martina was perfectly healthy and that they just needed to be patient. Another year passed, but their situation remained unchanged, and Martina's worry grew. She urged Florencio to get tested as well. "Darling, please, for my peace of mind and our future, get checked," she pleaded. "Marti, it's unnecessary. We can have children. It's just not the right time," Florencio replied, his tone calm but firm. "It's easy for you to say," she retorted, feeling a sting of frustration. "It's not difficult for me. I just don't see why you're making it worse," Florencio said, trying to soothe her. "The doctor said everything in due time," she reiterated. "Well, the doctor said that, but you haven't had your test yet," she pointed out. "All right, we'll go to your doctor on Wednesday and get whatever tests you want." Florencio agreed, hoping to ease her anxiety. Martina approached her husband and wrapped her arm around his shoulders. "Thank you. It means a lot to me." Florencio smiled and said, "Well, it's decided. So, tell me, where are we going to celebrate your birthday?" "I'm not sure. To be honest, I'm not really in the mood for a big celebration," Martina admitted. Florencio was surprised. "What do you mean? We could use a break and get some fresh air. How about a short trip for a couple of days?" "I think I'm just tired. We've been working a lot lately," Martina explained. Florencio nodded, understanding her fatigue. "I'm tired too. How about we celebrate your birthday with a little trip for a week? It's something we've talked about for a while. What do you think?" "I'd love that," Martina agreed immediately, her spirits lifting at the prospect of a getaway. With only a few days left until her birthday, neither Martina nor Florencio had any idea of what was about to happen. On the eve of the party, after work, Martina needed to pick up a dress she had ordered from a catalog. Florencio encouraged her to invite the work team to a restaurant to celebrate, given it was her birthday. Martina was well loved at work for her kindness, attentiveness, and fairness, earning her the affectionate nickname, "Our Mother Marty." Martina entered Florencio's office. "You're taking forever. I need to pick up my dress, honey. Just 5 more minutes and then we'll go," Florencio replied. "I'm jealous of the dress," Martina teased. "Then I'll meet you in the car," Florencio said with a grin. "Okay, I'll see you there." Martina made her way down to the parking lot, feeling upbeat. Florencio's tests had come back fine. He was also capable of having children, and his compatibility was very high. "We just need to wait a bit longer," he reassured her. As she waited for her husband, she glanced around, noticing the time passing. Florencio tended to be slightly late by 5 or 10 minutes, despite his efforts to manage his schedule. "You'll learn to be punctual someday," Martina said with a smile, thinking of Florencio's chronic tardiness. "It's a flaw. I can't help it. I hope you're not criticizing me. You're not going to leave me over this, are you?" he joked, pulling her into a hug and a kiss. "Of course not. Let's go. We don't want to be late for your salon appointment." They arrived at the salon just in time. Martina tried on the dress and was delighted. The dress accentuated her figure beautifully, even with a few extra pounds she had gained. She felt happy and confident. She put the dress bag on the back seat of the car, and Florencio suggested they go out for dinner. "Let's go. I'm not in the mood to cook tonight," Martina agreed. "You read my mind. Where do you want to go?" Florencio asked. "How about an Italian pizzeria? I've been craving pizza," Martina suggested. "Perfect. Let's head there," Florencio said, leading the way. They chatted about the places they wanted to visit. Florencio spoke of a charming town up north, known for its stunning nature, a place he had been to before and had hoped to visit again. Martina, on the other hand, had always dreamed of exploring that region. "You won't believe how beautiful it is," Florencio said with enthusiasm. "I've been trying to convince you to go there for ages, but you've always had work. I had so much work before, but now we have the time and means for this trip. I can't wait," Martina said excitedly. The anticipation was high, but suddenly, a blinding flash of light and a loud bang shattered their moment. Florencio blinked awake, disoriented, to find himself in a hospital room. The walls were sterile and white, and he was lying in a bed. Next to him, a man with a cast on his leg was resting. "Excuse me, where are we?" Florencio managed to ask weakly. "Glad to see you're awake," the man said with a reassuring smile. "We're in the hospital. An accident happened. And my wife, Martina?" Florencio's voice trembled with concern. "I don't have any information about your wife. Please try not to panic. The doctor will be able to give you more details," the man with the cast said, trying to calm Florencio. He pressed the call button, and moments later, a nurse rushed into the room. Seeing that Florencio had regained consciousness, she quickly ran out, shouting, "He's awake! Call Dr. Valverde." A few minutes later, Dr. Valverde entered the room and leaned closer to Florencio. "Do you remember your name?" he asked loudly. "Of course," Florencio replied, wincing. "And could you please not shout? I have a terrible headache." The doctor persisted. "Can you remember your last name?" "Doctor, I'm not an idiot. The Santoro. Now, where is my wife? What happened? I don't remember." "You're right, you remember well. You had an accident. Your wife is in the next room. She's alive, so don't worry." Florencio felt a wave of relief, but the doctor's expression unsettled him. "She's alive, but what's wrong with her? Her injury is more serious than yours. The impact was on her side. Can you explain?" "She will survive, but the recovery will be lengthy. I'm afraid she's still unconscious." "Is she okay? It's her birthday today." "Today's April 20th. "Yes, it is. I'm sorry, but you shouldn't visit her now," the doctor said, lowering his gaze. "But she needs me now more than ever. We've been together since the orphanage. We only have each other. Please, let me see her. I'm sure hearing my voice will help her wake up." Florencio pleaded desperately. The nurse, touched by his sincerity, said, "I can take him to see her in a wheelchair for no more than 5 minutes. I promise if it might help her wake up." "All right, but only for 5 minutes." The doctor agreed sternly and left the room. Florencio looked at the nurse with gratitude. "Thank you so much for understanding." "You're welcome. You're fortunate to have such a devoted husband. Not everyone shows such dedication. Believe me, I've seen a lot during my years here. I love her more than anything," Florencio said earnestly. "I can see that," the nurse smiled. Rest now, and I'll come to get you in half an hour. I'll be waiting, Florencio said, trying to calm his racing thoughts as he prepared to see his wife. Florencio glanced around the hospital room, his thoughts heavy with irony. My parents died in an accident, and now I've had one myself. But at least I'm still alive. And more importantly, Murti is alive. When the nurse arrived, Florencio was already seated on the edge of his bed. You're quick, he remarked. By the way, she said, you have a concussion. Not severe, but it's there, and a knee injury. Florencio looked down at his heavily bandaged leg. They must have given me a lot of painkillers, he thought, noting the lack of sensation. He then said firmly, let's go to Martina's room now. The nurse wheeled him down the hall to Martina's room, just a door away. As they entered, Florencio's heart sank at the sight of his wife. Martina lay there, bruised and battered, her arm in a cast, and a deep bruise marred her cheek and shoulder. It was a harrowing sight to see someone so dear suffering. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 3 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Tell me, Maria. Florencio read from the nurse's name tag. What's the situation? It's not as dire as it looks. She will heal, Maria said gently. But she has a spinal injury. The doctors are still deciding on the treatment plan. The most important thing right now is that she recovers. The specifics are still uncertain. Florencio's heart raced. A spinal injury? What does that mean? Is she going to be an invalid? Can she be helped? Or is she going to be permanently disabled? He asked, his voice thick with hope and desperation. Maria shook her head slowly. We won't know until the MRI is repeated later today. Our chief neurosurgeon, who is on vacation, is coming in to make the final diagnosis and decide on the treatment. She'll likely need several surgeries. You'll need to be patient. Recovery will take time. I understand. Thank you for being honest. The important thing is that she's alive and will handle the rest with God's help, Florencio said, trying to steady his emotions. Maria nodded. I'll leave you with her for 5 minutes. Then I'll come to take you back. Please, don't move without me. Thank you, Florencio said quietly as Maria left the room. He sat in the chair next to Martina's bed and took her hand in his. Murti, dear, happy birthday. Today is a special day. You need to wake up. I love you so much, and I can't live without you. You know that. We'll get through this. Wake up and tell me you love me. Everything else will be okay. He fell silent, gazing at her face, when he felt a slight pressure on his fingers. He looked up, startled. Maria, she squeezed my hand, he said excitedly when the nurse re-entered. Maria looked at him, slightly skeptical. Maybe you imagined it because you want it so much. But then they all heard a faint sound from Martina. Maria hurried out, and soon 3 doctors and 2 nurses were in the room. Florencio was taken back to his room and told to wait. The next half hour felt like an eternity. His heart pounded so loudly he felt it could be heard in the hallway. Finally, Dr. Gustavo Valverde entered. You were right, Florencio. Your presence has made a difference. Martina has regained consciousness, the doctor said. Florencio's eyes widened with hope and apprehension. He opened his mouth to ask questions, but Dr. Valverde raised a hand to stop him. Hold your questions for a moment. Let me first explain. Your wife has a serious spinal injury. We'll be taking her for another MRI in a couple of hours. Our neurosurgeon, who is coming in specifically for this, will decide on the next steps. I must be honest. It's a very complex situation. Florencio's voice trembled as he asked, will she be able to walk? Dr. Valverde's face was somber. I can't give you a definitive answer right now. We need to wait for the results of all the tests before we can determine what to expect. Are you willing to fight for her, no matter what the outcome? Florencio nodded, tears in his eyes. Yes, I am. I will fight for her, for as long as it takes. Dr. Valverde nodded, a look of respect in his eyes. Then let's wait and see what the tests reveal. We'll do everything we can to help her. I love my wife, and I will be with her no matter what the outcome is. Florencio declared with a firm resolve. I believe you, Dr. Valverde replied, placing a comforting hand on Florencio's shoulder. Your wife is fortunate to have someone like you. The doctor left, and Florencio was left alone with his tumultuous thoughts. While he had faced difficulties before, nothing compared to the fear of losing the one he loved most. The dread gripped him, causing his body to feel as if it were suffocating. The fear was overwhelming and all-consuming, unlike anything he had ever experienced. I need to control myself, he thought. I can't let Martina see me like this. I have to show her that I believe in her and that she can overcome this. I need to stay strong for her. He tried to steady his breathing, knowing that the neurosurgeon's report might not be as grim as it seemed. Yet, the reality was more terrifying than any nightmare he had ever had. Maria entered the room, her face etched with worry. She lingered by the door, eyeing Florencio with a troubled expression. I'm afraid I have more bad news, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Your wife is paralyzed from the waist down. Her spinal cord is severed, and nerve endings are pinched in 6 places. She will require major surgery, but there are no guarantees about the outcome. The gravity of her words hit Florencio like a physical blow. The tears that welled up were uncontrollable, a stark contrast to the stoic man he had always been. It was the kind of pain that felt like it could tear him apart. The next day, he was permitted to visit Martina. He steeled himself, determined to offer her support, but his emotional state felt fragile and shaky. Martina had always been adept at reading his moods through his expressions, and now he was afraid she would see the despair he felt inside. The nurse wheeled him into the room and left them alone. Martina's eyes were filled with tears as she looked at Florencio. It was clear she knew the gravity of her situation. Hello, Marti, he began, struggling to find the right words. I'm here with you. Hello, Martina replied softly, turning her gaze away. Florencio took her hand gently. We're together in this. We'll get through it, he said, trying to offer reassurance, though he struggled to believe it himself. Do you think you can handle this? Martina asked, her eyes searching his face. Of course, Florencio answered, his voice resolute. I've always believed that if you want to live, nothing can stop you. You're not going to leave me, are you? Martina managed a sad smile, then looked away again. You know, it might be better if you divorced me. I don't want to burden you with my suffering. I don't want you to see me like this. Florencio's heart sank. Marti, you're talking nonsense. I'm not going to divorce you. That's not even up for discussion. We have the means to make your life comfortable. Martina's frustration surfaced. Even if I'm in a wheelchair for the rest of my life? Florencio was taken aback. For a while. Yes, for the rest of my life. Martina's voice rose in anger. Don't you get it? I'm going to be in a wheelchair forever. I hate when you pity me. I don't need your sympathy. I need your love. But you can't fully love someone who's crippled, and don't try to convince me otherwise. Florencio was deeply hurt by her words. So you think that if you were in my place, you'd leave me? You'd divorce me? He looked at her with a mix of confusion and pain, waiting for her to meet his gaze. Of course not, Martina replied, her voice tinged with resignation. Then why do you think I'm such a bastard? Florencio asked, hurt and confused. Martina paused, searching for an explanation. Because men are different, she finally said. Men have needs that are often not compatible with a long-term commitment. They're rarely faithful for the long haul. I'm not saying all men are like this, but who told you such nonsense? Florencio's voice was laced with frustration. Do you believe that men can't truly love? That they can't commit and care deeply? Are all men just unfaithful traitors? No, that's not what I meant, Martina said, her voice softening. It's just that men and women have different expectations and needs. We could try other ways to make this work. There are options like surrogacy or adoption if we decide to have a child. So, you're willing to stay with me despite all my problems? Martina's eyes brimmed with tears. Of course, Florencio reassured her. I don't understand how you could think I would betray you. Together, we can handle this. A week later, Martina underwent surgery. The outcomes were better than expected, and the doctors planned additional surgeries in the coming months. Over a year, Martina had 6 operations. She regained some sensitivity and limited movement in her legs, but a full recovery was uncertain. During her final checkup, a tumor was discovered in her spine, adding yet another complication. "I don't want any more surgeries," Martina said with determination. "I've been in and out of hospitals for over a year. I want to go home. I don't care what the doctors say. I've had enough. If a higher power has decided it's time for me to go, then so be it." Florencio listened to Martina's plea and made arrangements. "I'll be there in an hour," he promised, ready to support her decision. While Martina was in the hospital, Florencio had secretly built and furnished a house to make her transition as comfortable as possible. When he finally brought her home, it was a complete surprise. "Honey, where are we going?" Martina asked, confused. "I thought we were heading home." "Patience, Murti," Florencio said with a smile. "Trust me." As they arrived at the new house, Martina's eyes widened in surprise. The house was 1 story but spacious, with a large yard, a pool, and a patio. It was beautifully designed to accommodate her needs. Florencio wheeled Martina into the house, showing her around. "This is the living room and here's the kitchen. We've got a bathroom and a separate toilet. This is our bedroom, and the guest room is next door." "And this door?" Martina asked, pointing to a door she hadn't yet seen. "That's your office," Florencio said. "I thought you'd want to continue with your work. It's all set up for you." Martina's eyes lit up with gratitude. "This is wonderful. Thank you." They moved on to another room. "What's this?" Martina inquired. "That's the maid's room," Florencio explained, noticing her displeasure. "Wait, don't be upset," he said quickly. "I figured you'd need some help since you'll be working. We'll have a live-in maid to assist you when you're tired." "I don't see the issue," Martina said, trying to understand. "Okay, but you can choose the maid yourself," Florencio offered. Martina smiled, touched by his thoughtful gesture. "Thank you, Florencio. It means a lot." Florencio felt a sense of relief and contentment as he saw Martina's reaction. They had a long journey ahead, but together, they were ready to face whatever came next. "Well, you could, but I've already found someone," Florencio said. "You can meet her first." "Okay," Martina accepted reluctantly. "How old is she?" 52. Martina laughed. "Jealous, huh? You know, life can be unpredictable." "I don't need a pretty girl," she scoffed. What Martina didn't know was that Florencio hadn't just chosen any helper. He had found a woman with medical training who had experience caring for the disabled. He had instructed Blanca, as she was called, never to reveal that she was a trained nurse. Life seemed to settle into a new routine. Florencio went to work, Martina worked from home, and Blanca managed all the household chores. Martina took a liking to Blanca. She was simple, kind, and enjoyable to converse with. Sometimes, they would spend hours chatting over a cup of tea in the living room. "Martina, you never wanted to search for your mother or understand why she did what she did?" Blanca asked one day. "I did want to once, but I changed my mind abruptly." If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 4 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Why's that? What would I say to her? That I've hated her all my life? That she betrayed me and didn't deserve to be a mother? What's the point? Nothing can change the past. Yes, I get that. I wouldn't want to be in your position either. Let it weigh on her conscience. You know, Murti, I'm not very religious, but sometimes I think there's something out there, like a high court, where everyone eventually gets what they deserve. Days turned into weeks, and 6 months passed since Martina had returned home. One morning, she awoke feeling incredibly unwell and called for Blanca. "We should call a doctor," Blanca suggested. Martina was dismissive. "What's the point? They've done everything possible." "Murti, I'm sorry. Maybe the tumor is benign, and they could have removed it. I'm exhausted from surgeries, procedures, and rehabilitation. I want to spend whatever time I have left at home. I understand, Blanca said, her voice heavy with empathy. I've seen people in similar situations before. After a week, Martina's arms began to fail, and her legs ceased functioning. She became increasingly despondent, isolating herself in her room, refusing to eat, and stopping all activities. Florencio, unable to bear seeing his wife suffer, began working late every day. Martina started to suspect that Florencio's extended absences were not just due to a work backlog. Though she was not naive, she could sense that something else was at play. Blanca noticed Martina's growing despair and recognized that Martina had essentially given up. Every effort to engage her in conversation ended in silence. One day, after returning from shopping, Blanca took a taxi home and noticed a man, around 60 years old, standing at the gate, trying to peer through the fence. Blanca grew cautious. In their affluent neighborhood, strangers were uncommon. She approached the man with a stern look. "What are you doing here?" "Excuse me, do you live here?" "I work here." "Who are you looking for?" "I'm looking for Martina Castro." Blanca was taken aback. She knew that was Martina's maiden name. "Martina Santoro, née Castro, lives here." "Why do you need her?" "Excuse me, how long have you worked here? Can we have a quick chat?" "I don't mean any harm." Blanca assessed the man from head to toe. He appeared intelligent and less intimidating than she had initially thought. Her intuition told her that she could at least hear him out. "Very well, come in. The owner is resting and won't come out. Martina is quite sick." "You didn't know?" "Not exactly," he replied. "We'll talk inside." They moved to the kitchen, where the man waited patiently while Blanca put away the groceries and kept quiet. "Would you like some coffee?" Blanca asked. "Yes, please. Thank you." Blanca prepared the coffee and sat down across from him. "What is so important that you needed to see me right away? And by the way, what is your name?" "My name is Daniel Sunday. And you are?" "I'm Blanca." "So what do you want, Daniel Sunday? Why are you interested in Martina right now?" "She isn't up for visitors." "Frankly, I'm Martina's father," Daniel said directly. Blanca nearly dropped her cup of coffee. "Father? And where were you when your daughter was in the orphanage, suffering and needing a family?" "Please don't jump to conclusions. I only found out about your existence 2 months ago." "How could that be?" "I'll explain everything if you can be patient, and then you can decide if it's my fault or not." "Okay, but please keep your voice down. Years ago, I was in a relationship with Martina's mother. I loved her deeply, but she chose someone else. I didn't have the money she wanted, so she rejected me. Devastated, I left the city to move on. I went abroad, earned some money, and eventually returned to the country. Instead of going back to my hometown, I settled in the capital and got a job at a clinic as a rehabilitation doctor. I have extensive experience, having trained in various countries. 2 months ago, my sister, who stayed in my hometown, contacted me to say that Martina's mother, Monica Castro, was searching for me. I was shocked since I hadn't heard from her since she ended our relationship. But my sister said Monica had been begging her to reach out to me. I decided to take some time off and meet with her. When I arrived, Monica's face changed, and she started crying as she looked out the window. She had cancer and was dying. She wanted to talk to me about her daughter before she passed. I was stunned, but when she revealed what she had done to Martina, I was furious. I asked her why she hadn't contacted me earlier and given me the girl if she didn't want her. Her response? She hadn't even considered it. But as she neared death, she decided to make amends. She told me where Martina had been taken and the year she had arrived at the orphanage. She said Martina had the same last name as Monica and urged me to find her, to apologize for the past, and ask for forgiveness for all the pain her life had endured. Blanca listened, feeling sympathy for Daniel. "It's a sad story. What do you plan to do now? Are you going to tell Martina the truth?" Daniel looked down, grappling with his own emotions. "I'm not sure yet. I need to understand how to approach this carefully. I don't want to cause more pain or distress, but I feel it's important to at least make amends and be honest with her." Blanca nodded thoughtfully. I understand. It's a delicate situation, and your intentions seem sincere. I hope you find a way to do what's right for Martina. They sat in silence for a moment, each reflecting on the weight of the revelations and the uncertain future that lay ahead. Of course, that's why I'm looking for her. My guilt towards my daughter has been haunting me. She's disappeared, and I did not know of her existence. I think she's an adult now and will understand. Do you think she'll be happy to see me? I can't say for sure. She's not in the mood to see anyone right now, Blanca replied honestly. Blanca then shared all the details she knew about Martina's condition, expressing frustration over the doctor's actions and her unanswered questions. When she finished, Daniel let out a heavy sigh. Can I see her? He asked. Daniel, I believe Martina needs to be prepared in some way, Blanca said just as the doorbell rang. Blanca rushed to the room. Murti, what's wrong? She called out, alarmed. Blanca quickly called a doctor. I don't feel well at all, Martina said. Blanca took advantage of the situation. I'm sorry. I've broken our agreement. My brother is visiting. He's a rehabilitation doctor. Can I call him first? I don't care. Go ahead, Martina replied. Blanca ran outside and called Daniel, urgently instructing him to take action. Look, we'll deal with the questions later. Do you want to help your daughter or not? Of course I do. Just tell me what to do. Daniel entered Martina's room. It wasn't the meeting he had envisioned, but the situation demanded action. He approached the bed, his heart aching at the sight of his ailing daughter. He tried to compose himself and focus on helping her. Tell me where it hurts, he asked gently. Everywhere, Martina replied, her voice weak. Daniel began examining her, using her reactions to pinpoint problem areas. How long have you been like this? About 2 weeks. I see. Can you move your hands? Martina tried to lift her hands but could only raise them slightly before they fell back to the bed. I can move them, but it's difficult. Your hands are numb and you can't hold them, correct? Yes. And you can't feel your legs at all? It started right after the accident, Martina said. Blanca tensed up, prompting Martina to ask how Blanca knew about the accident. Blanca decided to support her brother. Martina, I was the one who told Daniel about the accident. I'm sorry for not being upfront. Addressing Daniel, Blanca added, At first, I couldn't feel anything. After several surgeries, I even tried walking with a walker. Then I had a tumor in my lumbar spine, and my legs stopped working. Now it's a struggle to manage them. Daniel glanced between Blanca and Martina, processing the information. So, you could walk after the surgeries? Yes, albeit slowly and with great difficulty, Blanca confirmed. Then they examined your back? Yes, Blanca said as she helped Martina turn onto her side. Daniel requested she lie face down instead. He spent 20 minutes meticulously examining her back, pressing, checking for tenderness, and assessing the lump on her lower back. He then looked at Martina with a determined expression. I can help you. If you trust me and have patience, you will walk again. Blanca was taken aback. Martina turned to him sharply. So, you think you can fix me without Blanca's help? Listen to me carefully, Daniel continued. You need a good chiropractic massage, special exercises, some medication, and a lot of patience. I promise you will walk again. Martina, still skeptical, asked, I'm sorry, what's your name? Daniel. Daniel Sunday, he added calmly. Martina, with a hint of sarcasm, responded, And what am I supposed to think? That you're some kind of Santa Claus? The doctors have given up on me. There's hardly any chance of walking again or even surviving. Why are you giving me false hope? I'm not making fun of you, Daniel assured. I stand by my words. You can check the reviews about me on the Capital Clinic's website. Martina looked at him, unsure whether to believe him. Daniel decided to demonstrate his sincerity. He bent down and pressed something under Martina's knee, causing her to involuntarily react with a laugh. That tickles, she said, surprised. How did you do that? She asked, astonished. It doesn't matter. Do you believe me now? Daniel asked, smiling slightly. Martina, touched by his warmth and sincerity, responded with a smile of her own. There was something about Daniel that made her feel a glimmer of hope amidst her despair. Blanca and Daniel stepped out of Martina's room. "Did you tell her the truth?" Blanca asked, her curiosity getting the better of her. "Do you think I could lie to my daughter?" Daniel responded, "I don't know. I've never seen you before," Blanca admitted. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 5 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. "I understand. I don't trust you either," Daniel said with a smile. "I'll be back tomorrow at 9. Please let Martina know. I need to buy some medicine and arrange for some massages." "Sure. See you tomorrow," Blanca replied, her gratitude evident. "Thank you for giving her hope. It means a lot. Don't mention it. She's my daughter, and I'll do everything in my power to help her get back to normal," Daniel said firmly. He left, and Blanca returned to Martina's room. "Do you think he can help me?" Martina asked, a flicker of hope in her voice. "Murti, I have a feeling he's sincere. If you trust him and follow his instructions, I believe you both can make progress. I'll do my best. I'm hopeful, but let's not tell Florencio yet." "Agreed. I don't want him finding out before it's time," Blanca said. The following day, Daniel arrived promptly at 9, as promised. After having coffee with Martina, they began with a massage and a light exercise routine. Despite Martina's eagerness to see rapid progress, Daniel emphasized the importance of a gradual approach. "Murti, remember, we're aiming for results, not speed. You're not ready for intense training yet. It needs to be done step by step, correctly. We don't want any setbacks." "No, of course," Martina agreed. "I promise to follow your instructions." "Good. Now I have a request. Can you study with us on weekends?" "Only on Saturdays. My husband is home on Sundays, and I'd prefer not to mention you to him yet." "All right, here's the plan. On Sundays, you'll work with Blanca. I'll prepare a lesson plan and she'll supervise you. Can you keep your husband occupied for an hour?" "Yes, he likes to nap during meals. He's usually exhausted and sleeps a lot on Sundays." "Perfect," Daniel said, relieved. So it was arranged. 6 days a week of massages and workouts with Daniel, and Sundays dedicated to exercises under Blanca's supervision. After 2 weeks, though the results were still elusive, Martina began to feel a gradual improvement in her strength and mood. However, her relationship with Florencio was increasingly strained. Despite her progress, Martina found herself in tears on nights she stayed up working, especially after an all-nighter. Her frustration grew as she felt that Florencio's promise to be there for her was faltering. Doubts crept in. Perhaps he was seeing someone else, a thought that only deepened her frustration. The next day, when Daniel arrived, Martina was in a downcast mood and reluctant to study. Her father noticed her distress and asked softly, "Does your heart hurt?" Martina, surprised by his concern, confessed with a touch of sadness, "I think my husband might be having an affair." Daniel looked at her, taken aback. "That's serious. What makes you think that?" "He didn't come home last night, which has never happened before," Martina explained. "Murti, that doesn't necessarily mean he's having an affair. He could just be exhausted. It's important to keep things in perspective and not jump to conclusions. It's normal for him to need rest, and things may improve with time." Martina listened, appreciating Daniel's perspective. It was unusual for her to open up so much, but his sincerity made her feel a bit better. "You're just trying to reassure me? Or do you believe that?" Martina asked, her voice filled with skepticism. "I'm sure of it," Daniel replied, his tone firm and reassuring. Martina's curiosity took a sudden turn. "Do you have a wife?" "No, I don't," Daniel answered. "Do you have children?" Martina inquired. "Yes, a daughter. I just found out about her recently, and it's been tormenting me because I'm afraid to admit to her that I'm her father," Daniel confessed. "Why did you leave her?" Martina asked, her voice trembling with a mix of curiosity and concern. "I didn't leave her. Her mother told me she was pregnant and then broke up with me. I left town to move on, and years later, I discovered I had an older daughter," Daniel explained. Well, you should tell her, Martina suggested. Do you know where she lives? Daniel asked. Yes, but I'm scared, he admitted. I understand, Martina said softly. If I had known my father, I would be overwhelmed if he showed up and said, Martina, hi, I'm your dad. I hear you, Daniel responded, his voice filled with empathy. Daniel stood up, his heart racing as he headed toward the door. I think my blood pressure is through the roof, he thought, but he was resolute. We need to act. This is our chance. He knocked confidently on the door. Yes, Martina's voice called out. Daniel opened the door and stepped inside. Martina, hello. I'm your dad, he said. Martina was stunned, unable to move or speak. They stared at each other in stunned silence, each lost in their thoughts. Daniel waited for some reaction, while Martina struggled to process the revelation. You're my dad, she finally managed to ask, tears streaming down her face. How can this be? She sobbed, her voice trembling with emotion. Daniel approached the bed, pulled up a chair, and sat beside her. He began to recount the story of his life, sharing his journey and the pain of their separation. When he finished, Martina looked at him with a mixture of disbelief and gratitude. Can I give you a hug? She asked, her voice choked with emotion. Of course, Daniel replied warmly. I've wanted to do this for so long. I can't tell you how glad I am that I found you. I hope to find your mother, but discovering I have such a wonderful daughter, this is more than I ever dreamed. I was so worried about how you would react, Daniel admitted, his own eyes moist with emotion. I wasn't sure if you'd forgive me, and you didn't betray me, Martina reassured him. You didn't even know about me. They spent hours talking, sharing their life stories, and catching up on lost time. Martina listened with pride as her father spoke of his achievements, while Daniel listened with tears as Martina shared her life's struggles and triumphs. They talked uninterrupted, and the day's classes were missed for this heartfelt reunion. Only the massage session couldn't be postponed, so they continued with that. Martina became even more dedicated to her recovery, following her father's advice meticulously. There was now no doubt that she would recover, thanks to the care of the best doctor she could have hoped for. Their sessions extended, and they continued to talk at length, even connecting through phone calls and video conferences in the evenings. Martina planned to tell her husband later, once things were more settled, and to have her father move in with them for everyone's convenience. When Florencio came home, Martina was already asleep. Her illness and the new routine had caused her to fall asleep early, usually by 10 p.m., a pattern Daniel had suggested as beneficial for her recovery. That night, Florencio stayed late at work again, reluctant to return home. He stopped a couple of times on his way back, lost in thought and trying to delay his arrival. He knew Martina had been falling asleep early lately, and he attributed it to her illness. Florencio arrived home around 11 p.m. The lights were on only in the living room, signaling that everyone else was likely asleep. Blanca, who tried to go to bed shortly after Martina to manage the household chores early, heard voices coming from the living room. Why is she awake? And who could be visiting so late? Blanca wondered, her curiosity piqued as she walked toward the sound. Florencio crept closer to the door, trying to piece together what he had overheard. I'm so grateful to you, Martina's voice rang out, filled with genuine emotion. I don't know how I would have managed without you. You came into my life just in time. Stop thanking me. I love you, and I'm doing everything I can to make you feel good. A soothing male voice responded from the other side of the door. It became clear to Florencio that they were on a video call. What time are you coming tomorrow? Martina asked. The usual time, the man replied. No, honey. Tomorrow I need to get something else for you. I'll be there maybe around 10 or 11:30. I'll call you or Blanca when I arrive. Go to bed now, it's late. Have a good night. A hug. I love you. Good night. Martina responded calmly. The final words echoed in Florencio's mind. I love you too. See you tomorrow. They struck him with a wave of fury and betrayal. He now believed that his wife had been unfaithful, perhaps meeting someone at the hospital and hiding it behind a pretense of illness. Even Blanca seemed to be in on it. The realization stung. He felt like a fool. In a fit of anger, he headed to the bar and poured himself a glass of wine. Florencio rarely drank, so even a couple of glasses had him feeling more than relaxed. His mind raced with thoughts of deceit and betrayal. He poured himself a second glass and gulped it down, then made his way to his wife's bedroom. Martina was deeply asleep. Florencio stood by the bed, scrutinizing her. Something seemed off. Martina's right arm was resting on her pillow. Given her condition, she shouldn't have been able to move her arm like that. The sight only fueled his anger and suspicion. She's been lying to me, he thought bitterly. This is all a deception. Determined to catch her in the act, Florencio resolved to skip work the next day. He planned to return home unexpectedly after 10, hoping to catch them red-handed. As he imagined the confrontation, his anger began to simmer with a twisted sense of anticipation. The next morning, Florencio went through his usual routine, albeit with a cloud of resentment hanging over him. He left for work at 8, informing Blanca that she wouldn't need to prepare dinner for him as he would be late. Blanca's subtle nod did nothing to ease his suspicion. He felt certain that she was part of the conspiracy. Back at home, Blanca went about her duties with an air of mystery. Martina, noticing her unusual demeanor, asked, "Blanca, are you okay?" "Yes, everything is fine. Why do you ask?" Blanca replied, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. "I don't know, you seem different today," Martina said, her curiosity piqued. "You must be imagining things," Blanca said, trying to brush it off. She then hesitated before admitting, "Marty, I like your father. I get so shy and nervous around him." "Well, that's great," Martina said with a smile. "If you're seeing someone else, I don't want to interfere. I'll find out," she added playfully, winking. "Thank you, but please don't tell anyone," Blanca said nervously. "What's wrong? Is it the solidarity of a woman?" Martina teased, still in a good mood. The progress from her sessions with Daniel had been encouraging. She could now stand on one foot and even take a few steps with the help of a walker. Her hands had nearly stopped numbing, a significant improvement. "Daniel Domingo," Martina called out excitedly. "Hello. I'll be there in 10 minutes, came the reply from Daniel. "Hello. We're waiting for you," Martina said, glancing at Blanca with a knowing smile. "You and who?" Daniel asked, confused. "Well, me and my limbs that are starting to move," Martina replied with a grin. Florencio stormed into the living room, his anger palpable. He greeted Blanca curtly and then headed toward Martina's room. Blanca, startled, dropped a plate that shattered on the floor. "Florencio, why are you here?" she asked, trying to mask her anxiety. She was caught off guard and struggled to process what was happening. Florencio's anger was evident, and she knew she had to find a way to warn Martina and Daniel. "Are you hiding something from me?" Florencio's voice was sharp, his anger barely contained. Blanca, feeling like a deer caught in headlights, tried to keep up with him. "Do you want a coffee?" Blanca offered, hoping to distract him. "Are you joking? Do you think I came here for coffee? Where is my wife? Is she in her room or has she gone to her appointment?" "What appointment?" Blanca asked, her voice trembling. "You must be misunderstanding something." Florencio was beyond listening. His rage, fueled by jealousy and suspicion, led him to yank open the door to Martina's room. The sight that greeted him made his blood boil. Inside, Daniel Domingo had just finished giving Martina a massage. Florencio, not waiting for an explanation, grabbed Daniel by the shoulder, roughly throwing him towards him, and landed a punch to his face. Daniel was caught off guard, stumbling back onto the bed. Florencio was about to strike again when Martina leaped onto the bed, covering herself with the blankets and shouting, "Do not touch him. He is my father." The words hit Florencio like a splash of cold water. "Who is he?" he demanded, his anger now mingled with confusion. "He is my father," Martina repeated firmly. "What are you doing? How is he your father? Where did he come from?" Florencio's questions came in rapid succession, his mind racing to make sense of the situation. "If you calm down, I'll explain everything to you alone," Martina said, her voice calm despite the turmoil. She saw Florencio's bewilderment and realized she needed to bridge the gap between their understanding. Florencio noticed Martina standing by the bed, her legs still shaky but determined. "You're walking just a little. If you don't hurt my father, I'll walk more," she said, trying to ease the tension. "I don't understand anything," Florencio admitted weakly, the realization of his rash actions sinking in. "Dad, Blanca made coffee. We need to talk," Martina said, her tone softening. "Are you all right?" Florencio asked, his concern shifting back to Martina. "I'm fine. My teeth seem to be in place," Martina replied with a wry smile. Daniel, now recovering from the shock, remarked to Florencio, "I didn't know your spouse was so jealous." "I'm sorry. I didn't anticipate this," Daniel said, his voice filled with regret. He and Blanca left the room, giving Florencio and Martina some space. Martina, now sitting on the edge of the bed, motioned for Florencio to join her. As he sat down beside her, she began to explain. "I should have told you from the beginning," Martina said, her voice steady. "Daniel is my father. I only recently found out about him. He's been helping me recover, and I didn't want to complicate things by bringing up the past before I was sure about how it would affect us." Florencio listened, his anger subsiding as he processed the story. "Why didn't you tell me from the start?" he asked, his voice a mix of frustration and concern. Martina took a deep breath. "I didn't want to overwhelm you. I needed time to understand this new part of my life and how it would fit into ours. I should have been more open, but I didn't want to add to your stress." Florencio, still grappling with his emotions, nodded slowly. "I understand now. I'm sorry for my reaction. I just didn't know what to think." If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 6 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Martina reached out, taking his hand. "Thank you for listening. We'll work through this together." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the recent events slowly lifting as they began to reconnect and understand each other's perspectives. "I wanted to surprise you," Martina explained. "I didn't know what kind of results Dad and I would get, so I didn't want to raise your hopes prematurely. If I had been more forceful, you might have thought I was being deceitful." Florencio lowered his head, feeling the weight of his misunderstanding. "And how did you find out about last night?" "When I walked in, I overheard you confessing your love to someone," Martina said. Florencio sighed deeply. "What was I supposed to think? And you immediately assumed I had a lover, despite my condition? We agreed not to lie to each other, remember?" He paused, reflecting on the situation. "I admit, I was wrong for not sharing the news with you, but I never imagined you'd think I was unfaithful. It doesn't matter what I thought. I was wrong. Please forgive me," he said, his voice heavy with guilt. "I'm an idiot." Martina smiled softly. "But I have an excuse. I'm an idiot in love. Do you forgive me?" "Of course. But I also need to apologize to my father-in-law." "Of course. What's your father's name?" "Daniel Domingo." "All right, let's go apologize. It's a big word, but we'll manage," Martina said with a smile. She climbed into a chair, and Florencio helped her to the living room. Daniel and Blanca were sitting on the couch, enjoying a coffee when they noticed their hosts approaching. Blanca immediately stood up, looking anxious. "Please sit down. Everything is all right," Florencio reassured them. Turning to his father-in-law, he said, "Daniel Domingo, please forgive me. I didn't mean for us to meet under these circumstances. I had no idea you were Martina's father." "It's all right," Daniel replied with a smile. "He'll recover before the wedding." "Wedding?" Martina murmured to herself. "Whose wedding? Mine?" She looked at Daniel with a mix of hope and concern. "I hope you don't think this will cause a divorce," she said, attempting to lighten the mood. "I've never been married," Daniel replied enigmatically. "That's interesting," Martina said with a chuckle. "Martina, I hope you'll visit us," Daniel said warmly. Of course, as long as there are no more fights, Martina responded, smiling as everyone laughed. Blanca, feeling a bit left out, asked quietly, "Will they invite me too?" "Yes, Blanca, you'll be invited," Daniel assured her before changing the subject. "Martina, we need to continue with your massage. We're not finished yet." "Yes, Dad. I'll say goodbye to Florencio and then head back to the room while you finish your coffee," Martina said. Florencio left for work, and Martina resumed her session with her father. Afterward, Daniel Domingo left for the night. Martina decided to have a talk with Florencio about having her father stay at their house. She walked into the kitchen, where the aroma of delicious food filled the air. "Blanca, what are you cooking? It smells magical." "I'm drooling," Martina said with genuine excitement. Blanca turned her back to Martina and, without looking around, replied, "Her favorite meat is in the oven." Martina noticed the tremor in Blanca's voice. "Blanca, turn around please," she asked gently. "I'm sorry, I can't," Blanca said, still facing away. "Don't make me go through the kitchen just to get to you." When Blanca finally turned around, Martina saw tears streaming down her face. "What's wrong? What happened?" Martina asked, concern etched in her voice. Blanca's voice cracked with emotion. "I heard your father talking about getting married, and for a moment, I thought he might have feelings for me too." Martina tried to comfort her. "Blanca, I think you're getting ahead of yourself. Don't be upset until you know more. When I get an invitation, then we'll see. I have a feeling he was just joking about the wedding." "I don't think so," Blanca replied, her voice still shaky. "Well, feed me, or I might start chewing on the table," she joked, trying to shift her focus away from her disappointment. Martina persuaded Blanca to join her for lunch. As they sat down, Martina suggested, "Look, it's such a nice day. How about we have a glass of wine?" Blanca hesitated. "I don't drink at work," she refused. Martina smiled. "Come on, it's not exactly work. You live with us, help us out, and don't even get days off. Sometimes you deserve to relax. Let's have a drink." Blanca agreed with a smile. "All right, just a little." Martina poured the wine and they settled in. But before they could continue, the doorbell rang. Who could that be? Blanca wondered aloud, walking to the door. She opened it to find Daniel Domingo standing on the threshold, holding a beautiful bouquet of roses. "Dear Blanca, I hope you'll accept these flowers and my proposal. Will you marry me?" Daniel asked, presenting her with the bouquet and a small box. Blanca's eyes welled up as she opened the box to reveal a stunning ring. Tears of joy streamed down her cheeks as she slid the ring onto her finger. "Does this mean you're serious?" she asked, her voice trembling. Daniel nodded. "Yes, and there's something I'd like to ask you. Can we wait to celebrate the wedding until Martina can walk again? It should only be a couple of months." Blanca smiled through her tears. "Of course, we'll wait. There's no problem at all." As the future bride and groom shared their emotional moment, Martina couldn't help but tease. "Hey, future bride and groom, are you going to spend the next 2 hours being all sweet to each other? Or are we going to get to the wine soon?" "So, you did it on purpose, didn't you?" Blanca asked Martina with a hint of accusation. "You knew everything." Martina smiled. "Of course, it was my father. You two celebrate while I rest for a while in my room." 2 months later, Martina was walking around the house with only a cane, no longer needing a walker. Daniel Domingo had moved in with his daughter and spent more time with his future wife. One night, the men were relaxing in the gazebo when Florencio asked Daniel a pressing question. "How did the doctors give up, and you were able to bring Martina back to life?" Daniel explained, "The doctors had thought Martina had a tumor on her spine, but it turned out to be a herniated disc. If it's not advanced, chiropractic care can treat it. If it's advanced, surgery might be necessary. It's a common medical error to misdiagnose such conditions. I had to correct their mistake." Florencio was amazed. "What would we have done without you? If it hadn't been for you," Daniel cut him off. "Stop thanking me. I did what needed to be done. I feel responsible for my daughter's health." If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 6 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Florencio added, and it's not about guilt. What matters is that you worked together and succeeded. I thought it would take longer, but Martina recovered much faster than expected. Daniel then broached a new topic. Florencio, I wanted to discuss something with you. I know we need to talk it over with our women, but I wanted to ask you first. What's up? Florencio asked. I'm considering selling my flat in the capital to build a larger house. The current space is too cramped, and Martina still needs Blanca's help. We need more room, Daniel proposed. That sounds reasonable, but let's discuss it with the women first, Florencio agreed. The men returned to the house where Martina and Blanca were sitting on the living room couch, discussing an upcoming event, a wedding. Blanca had initially resisted the idea of a big celebration, but Martina had convinced her to go all out. Blanca, I want you to have a beautiful event. My father has been a huge support, and you've been indispensable. Is there anything I can do for you? Martina offered. Blanca looked at Florencio. You're not the only one involved here. I have my part too. Blanca, you should give in. Martina's not going to back down, Daniel interjected. All right, Blanca conceded. But we also wanted to talk to you about something. Martina's face lit up with happiness. Your father suggested building a larger house. We'd have a room for everyone, a couple of bedrooms for guests, a kitchen, a living room, and his office. What do you think? Martina looked at her husband and father with playful mockery. Something seems off. Florencio's heart sank, fearing his wife might dislike the idea. What's wrong? Martina grinned. Nothing's wrong. When do you want to start building? Tomorrow, Florencio said, his tone resolute. If there are no objections, let's go ahead and start building. In 8 months, we'll build again. Martina smiled calmly and winked at Blanca, who was already in on the surprise. I don't see why we'd need to rebuild. Florencio looked at his wife and father-in-law with a puzzled expression. I'm not following. What's going on? Daniel, catching on, exclaimed with excitement. In 8 months, I'll be a grandfather. His eyes were moist with tears of joy. Martina confirmed with a beaming smile. Yes, I went to the doctor yesterday. Florencio rushed over and embraced his wife. This is amazing news. But wait, are you allowed to give birth naturally? Florencio's excitement was mixed with concern. I think they might have to do a cesarean. Is that okay? Daniel reassured him. It's fine. Everything will be taken care of. Florencio was overwhelmed, still grappling with the rapid changes in their lives. Just 6 months ago, he had thought their happy family life was behind them, but with the arrival of his father-in-law and the news of their baby, everything had turned around so suddenly that he struggled to process it all. A week after Daniel and Blanca's wedding, held in the same restaurant as Florencio and Martina's, they celebrated with only close family. Florencio and Martina covered the costs of the event and gifted the newlyweds a honeymoon trip. Blanca, astonished by the lavish gift, protested, "Why so extravagant? You've already organized and paid for everything. I feel embarrassed. I have my grandchildren to care for." Florencio chuckled. While the newlyweds were away, Martina and Florencio worked on the plans for their new, larger house, though they waited for Daniel and Blanca's final approval before starting construction. Upon the newlyweds' return, the project was approved and construction began. The new house was completed just in time for the arrival of their baby, but the family decided to move into the new home after the birth. Wow, what an incredible journey we've been on with Martina, Florencio, Blanca, and Daniel, from surprises to heartfelt apologies and joyous celebrations. This story reminds us of the power of communication, understanding, and the deep connections that bind us together. As we wrap up, we'd love to hear from you. What's one key takeaway from this story that resonated with you? How might you apply this lesson to your own life or relationships? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and found it valuable, please leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiring content. Your support helps us continue bringing you stories and insights that matter. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.